So this happened yesterday.
Meanwhile, one of the teams trying to keep up with the Cavs made a splashy move today. Toronto pulled the trigger on Serge Ibaka, bringing the versatile big man north from Orlando in exchange for Terrence Ross and the lesser of the Raptors' 2 first-round draft picks.
Holy crap. This is definitely the trade of the year. There's only one way the Toronto Raptors fans are reacting right now, and it's this.
Man, I love this trade. I love this trade.
I love this trade. And welcome to another episode of Instant Replay, your favorite sports podcast. I'm your host, Zohaib Nakvi. I'm so excited to bring this podcast to you guys. The trade has happened. The power forward we needed, Serge Ibaka, averaging 15 points a game, 7 rebounds, almost 2 blocks a game, has finally come to Toronto. I'm so excited. In this podcast, Atef Mujeeb, who is the Orlando native, talks about Orlando Magic's perspective of the trade, and I talk about the Toronto benefits of having a player like Serge Ibaka on the team. Let's roll.
So yeah, yesterday was pretty insane.
Yeah, yesterday.
Let's just say that much.
Yesterday was a big day, buddy. Big day. I don't know how excited you are, but I think...
It was the craziest thing. It was between our two cities. It wasn't between any other two cities, but the biggest trade so far is between Toronto and Orlando.
It's like they knew. It's like they wanted us to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Literally, this instant replay coming at you live with the people from each city. I'm recording here from Orlando.
Yeah, we got the subject matter expert sitting in Orlando right here, talking like he's the GM of Orlando Magic.
I might as well be, because Rob Hennigan has literally driven our team to junk for the past 5 years.
I'm glad you're admitting that. On all our previous podcasts, you kind of fight for them, but now clearly you're just admitting it.
No. I fight for the Magic. Rob Hennigan, I had really high hopes for him. He look at what he was on the staff when he was in Oklahoma City. He was on Sam Presti's team and everything. But this guy, he comes here, I'm like, oh God, this guy's going to bring. He drafted Harden, he drafted Westbrook, he drafted Durant. And of course, they were higher picks and everything. But at the same time, he put an amazing contending team together. He was a part of that team. And I'm like, okay, Hennigan's coming to Orlando. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah. So clearly it wasn't the case at all.
Not whatsoever. And yesterday was the only move I actually liked by him, because it salvaged something for us for all the mistakes he made.
Yeah, I guess as long as you're happy with it, man. I know the people here in Toronto, I've been talking to everyone over the last 24 hours here. We obviously share a friends group of all our high school friends, Atef, and we know how excited all the Toronto fans in that group are. They're ecstatic about this move. Just to recap, the trade was Serge Ibaka coming over to Toronto from Orlando in exchange for Terrence Ross, who's, our small forward off the bench player, who's having a great year this year, but I've never been a fan. That's a side note we'll get into. And a 2017 first round pick that will be either Toronto's 2017 pick or the LA Clippers 2017 pick, whichever one's lower.
And the reason I like the trade is because the most important thing to note about this trade, Serge Ibaka is a free agent after this year. So at the end of this campaign, he will be a free agent.
It's a different perspective for what's the most important thing, because your worry as an Orlando fan was clearly that he was a free agent and you wouldn't be able to retain him.
And it's warranted, because we gave up. Not only did we give up a budding defensive-minded player in Victor Oladipo. Yes, he had inflated statistics because he was playing on a bad team like ours in terms of the points. And if you look at him in OKC, yes, he's putting up decent points, but his field goal percentage, his effective field goal percentage, nothing is up there. So he's a very good defensive player, but he was a budding emerging role player. We also gave up our pick this year, and then who was it? Who else did we give up? Ersan Ilyasova, who's balling in Philadelphia at this point. So we gave up 3 pretty good, decent talents
for sure.
Serge Ibaka.
For sure.
So to lose for him to walk away for nothing was my biggest worry, because if that had happened, I'm sure all of you guys, including Zohaib and everybody, would be coming at me like, what the hell is Orlando doing? And I would have done the same thing. I would have probably disowned my team, because Rob Hennigan is literally just driving us into the dirt.
But like a year ago, like as Toronto Raptors fans, we've had an issue at the 4 spot or the power forward spot for the last little while. Obviously, like everyone knows that. We have Patrick Patterson. So I found this really, really unique. Yesterday on Game Time, they were talking about this unique stat that when Patrick Patterson's on the floor, they're plus 13, and when he's off, they go into the minuses. So they have no other power forward apart from Patrick Patterson. So this will obviously, you're bringing in a player that's better than Patrick Patterson. So in times when Patrick Patterson isn't playing, Serge Ibaka will clearly help you. But the craziest thing to me was, Atef, from this trade perspective, had we approached Orlando last year for Serge Ibaka, this is what you guys... not from you guys, from the Thunder. This is what the Thunder were asking us for. Okay, we were gonna have to give up Patrick Patterson, who's a great four in my opinion, who's fantastic off the bench. He does what his role is, and he does that very well. Okay,
exactly.
Norman Powell, who's a young up and coming guy. I wasn't too bullish on him at the start of the season. I know people were really excited about him last year in the playoffs. He did well, but realistically, I wasn't too bullish. But he's definitely played very well. I've got a chance to see him live.
He showed last year. I don't know why, because he showed flashes of like athleticism, good choice making. So he's there. He's in the conversation for going to be a good player.
Exactly. So we had to give Patrick Patterson, Norman Powell, and our number 9 pick for Serge Ibaka. This is last year in June, right? So that's kind of crazy. And now,
yeah.
And now we just gave up Terrence Ross and a 2017 pick, which will probably be in the 20s.
But you got to remember the two big things. There's 2 things that I love about, or 3 things I should say. One, obviously, we lost Serge Ibaka, but we didn't lose him for anything. We got Terrence Ross, just like you said. He's having a career year. Yes, Toronto Raptors fans hate him, but he does have the ability to generate some offense. So, and that's what Orlando desperately needs. Offense.
Agreed.
And then 2, now that Ibaka is gone, I feel like we're gonna Aaron Gordon's gonna develop a lot better, because we're gonna shift him back to his more natural position of the power forward, and we're gonna slip Terrence Ross back into small forward. So now you have the ability to develop this budding star that everybody says he has all the skills. He's an elite defender already. It's just his offensive skills needed to be honed, but we were pushing him into a spot where he was not comfortable. Now we have him in the spot that he's going to be comfortable, and he's been more prone to play with.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, in my opinion, and let me hear what you think about it. In my opinion, I thought Aaron Gordon had regressed this year. Like, people expected him to be a lot better than what he has been this year.
And exactly, you're trying to they hired shooting gurus for him, and of course you're not going to get a shot in 1 year or anything like that. But regardless, his natural position was never to play as a wing. He's more of a bodyer. He can play on the fast break and everything. But this guy was dashing up too many threes too soon because he was playing a small forward. In all honesty,
agreed.
So he had no business.
If you grade this deal, Atef, I get it. Terrence Ross is a wing scorer, and you guys need wing scoring. You need offensive help. But at the same time, it's like you just lost. And I guess the situation was kind of strange, because you signed Bismack Biyombo, who's kind of he's not as good as Ibaka, obviously, from an offensive position, but he brings defensive intensity. We obviously are familiar with Biyombo because we had him last year. So you had kind of like 3 big men, and you have Vucevic. You have 3 big men that are just playing that, and Aaron Gordon obviously at the power forward, and it just seems like you have too many big men.
Exactly. So it was a flooded court, so there was no way to get any type of consistent chemistry generating, because you had this giant logjam of 3 awesome players in the front court, but none of them had time. and then you were skewing one player out of his position in Aaron Gordon. So you had no continuity, you had no fluidity. There was no way for the Magic to gain any momentum in their team because there was so much still being shuffled all the way up until now. They took Vucevic out of the starting lineup, they took Payton out of the lineup, then they reinserted Vucevic back, then they reinserted Payton back, then they took Gordon out of the lineup.
So let me ask you this. If you were to give them a score, and this is your perspective, Orlando, if you were to give them a score out of 10 being this is a fantastic trade, to 1 obviously being this is worst thing that could ever happen to our team, what would you give them?
I'd give them an 8.5 to a 9 because you got at the end of the day, there was no way anybody was going to give us whatever we were asking for Serge Ibaka because he's on an expiring deal.
Well,
that's the biggest thing about this trade for me. Like, he's expiring. Nobody was going to give up anything near his talent level to get that would have been an equal trade for majority other people that are viewing this trade. But at the end of the day, as a Magic fan, if I saw another big man walk out on me for nothing, I was literally going to take my heart out and destroy it myself.
And I think, Terrence Ross, I personally have, I'll get into my feelings with Terrence Ross shortly, but, Terrence Ross is going to be a good complementary piece to Evan Fournier, in my opinion. So, it's not the end of the world. Plus, this 2017 draft, we all know is supposed to be the best since 2003 pretty much because it's so guard heavy and we know the league is run by guards. Lonzo Ball is obviously not going to slip all the way to 20th, but, there's key marquee players that you can build a franchise around. That are in this draft.
There's many teams.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and so from my perspective, Atef, for Toronto Raptors, I'm clearly thinking that, this is hands down 11 out of 10, if I was to grade this for us, because, we've been on the last 25 games, we're 10-15. So we're doing pretty poorly. Like I said to you, when Patrick Patterson's on the floor, we're obviously doing substantially better, but obviously this not only helps us from the standpoint of, we have bigs like Jonas, who's, in my opinion, I don't know if Raptors fans will agree, I hope they do, but he's a defensive liability, right? He does not have quick feet.
He definitely is.
Nowadays, you need bigs that are able to guard guards, right? Like, if there's a switch, they got to be able to guard guards, and someone 100%. As athletic as a Serge Ibaka can definitely guard someone at the perimeter. You know what I mean? So it actually helps us from a defensive standpoint. That's how I'm looking at this. I get it offensively. Ibaka is also doing very well 3-point wise.
Yeah, and he can stretch out the floor and everything. Yeah. So, it fits perfectly. But I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, ask me.
Doing this trade, what is the outlook of the Toronto Raptors team? Are they in a win now? This is the year we have, and everything implodes after that, or what do you think the Raptors are trying to do with this trade?
So I think clearly
because you just took you took an expiring deal, so that's why I'm trying to figure out. You guys took an expiring deal for two. One, the pick is a very big asset, especially for this draft, and Terrence Ross was having a very good career year off the bench for you guys, regardless what fans think. He was generating offense.
He was generating offense. This is the first year in his last 3, 4, 5 years that he was actually generating offense. Okay, so my views on this is we're in a win now mode ever since Kevin Love was announced to get 6 weeks off. I think we kind of, based on, articles that I'm reading and, forums that I'm reading and people talking about this, the rumors have it is we got really aggressive on this trade, essentially, when we found out that, Cavs are going to be injured or hurt, and we have a real shot of moving up the ranks. So from my perspective, this is a win now scenario. We're obviously gonna, there's this, we had Saj Khan obviously recently on the podcast, who's a Toronto Raptors fan, who mentioned there's an African connection between Masai and all the African players. And obviously, Serge Ibaka being from the Congo is obviously that connection that he's going to use to his advantage. He's going to leverage at the end of the day when he has to re-sign this guy. And if Serge wants to win, the Toronto Raptors, we just locked up DeMar DeRozan. Kyle Lowry is obviously going to become a free agent, and that's going to be a separate topic that we can get into.
Exactly.
Right? We're going to need to talk about that as well. But we basically have a core right now. JV is locked up in a contract. We have a core right now that we could see ourselves building with over the next at least 2 to 3 year window. You know what I mean? So, and Serge Ibaka fits in perfectly. He's 27 years old. He's shooting 39.8% from three-point range, which fits well with us because we're not a high three-point volume shooting team. We obviously need the defensive help. So clearly, even though we're the second most offensively efficient team in the Eastern Conference, that doesn't mean anything for us because we are probably somewhere in the average for the defensive efficiency rating as well. So defensively, I think this is going to really help us. And so I think we are definitely, to answer your question, in a win now mode.
So beyond this year, the only way you're gonna stay in contention, obviously I'm saying one of the most obvious statements right now, but the only way you're gonna stay in contention is if you keep Lowry and Ibaka. How that's gonna happen, I'm not entirely
And
sure.
I know we were talking about this briefly before too, and we had a debate within our friends circle, and we were talking about this with everyone, whether Kyle Lowry is gonna demand a max contract, and there's a couple of friendly bets going on in our group because people think that he isn't gonna. I think he will ask for it, whether he signs it or not. I think he really enjoys playing in Toronto. I truly believe that. Whether
the chemistry with DeRozan too is crazy. You can't take that off the table.
Can you tell me many other players, especially in the backcourt, like Beal and John Wall, clearly don't like each other, and they're probably in my opinion, and obviously I have a biased opinion, the second best backcourt in my opinion. And I'm biased. I'll make that clear. They're the second best backcourt, and so Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are the number one backcourt in my opinion in the Eastern Conference, and they're the closest, in my opinion, again, like on and off the court as well.
Exactly. So there's a million things coming into factor for this Kyle Lowry thing. It's not just the money, but it's the fan base he's created, the chemistry he has with his teammates. Because Lowry also knows he goes anywhere else, he's going to start from bottom up again.
Yeah, exactly. And so, while I see this being, a big offseason for the Toronto Raptors, because one, we have to obviously lock in Lowry to a long-term deal. We have to obviously sign Serge Ibaka to a long-term deal. I think the idea here is going to be over the next, X number of weeks and deep into the playoffs. Hopefully, we do well in the playoffs and we get into the later rounds. But the idea is here to prove to Serge Ibaka that we have something special here and that we can build onto this platform, this core that we have, and provide the right pieces to get over that hump. I get it.
100%.
I get it. Cleveland is still the dominant force in the Eastern Conference, but I am not remotely scared by the likes of the Celtics. The Wizards, they have a great backcourt, but with the Serge Ibaka addition, and I know they're the hottest team right now in the NBA, they're like stringing up wins like it's nobody's business. But I think with the Serge Ibaka deal, I think talent-wise, at least, we've surpassed them as well.
Oh, 100%. You guys have shot right back into the only other team that will give Cavaliers a running for the game. So in terms of what's on paper right now, obviously we haven't seen your team play together, so there's no way to actually see what's going to be like. And of course, a few L's in the beginning is not going to mean that your team is not good. It takes time to build chemistry, but on paper right now, it's going to be Toronto versus Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I really, really hope so, man. But our history of playing in the playoffs. Some of
and that's my only argument with your team. Your team is amazing, but last year, man, the inconsistency of Lowry and DeRozan both came out in the playoffs. Man.
Yeah, but then you have
another
advantage to us is you have a guy who's made it to the Western Conference Finals, and Ibaka was on the NBA Finals team, right? That OKC made.
Yeah, he was. He was. When he got beat by LeBron.
He's made it all the way to the finals of the NBA. So now you have a player who has tons of playoff experience. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and one important thing that I really want to kind of dibble into is I feel like one of the reasons Ibaka just didn't work out with us is because this is not a shot at his talent nor his skill as a player. Everybody knows how skillful this guy is. He's amazing post presence, defensive presence. He can stretch the offense. He's a great player. But I just don't think he was ready to be a leader, nor does he have that personality to be a leader of the team. When he was on OKC, he had two leaders ahead of him in Russ and Durant. And I'm not saying that Lowry and DeRozan are at the talent level nor eliteness of them two, but he's back in a similar situation where he has two people that carry the offensive load that wouldn't mind his help in offense. You get what I'm saying?
I totally agree.
I feel like this is going to be a really, really good fit for Ibaka.
I think it'll be a good fit for the Raptors, and it's a great fit for Ibaka, even long term, realistically.
Exactly.
Because of the fact, and those are great points that you brought up. Realistically, he's not a number one option anywhere.
Nowhere.
Serge Ibaka, but he is a great number 3 or, a great number 4 or whatever he is. He's great in that. And I think, I personally think what really stemmed Masai, I get it, like I said, the Kevin Love deal. I think it might have even been, I don't know if you were aware, but Kyle Lowry basically came out after, I can't remember who the loss was to, the night before, and came out and said that something desperate needs to happen. Something needs to change.
Yeah, something needs. Yeah.
Right? And so that I kind of feel like is triggering Masai to do this, because Masai has to keep his own core happy too, right? This core is going to be up for, like, half of the core, aka Kyle Lowry, is going to be up for free agency.
But hey, this is something weird though. And I think this is a new age basketball thing that team players, they're calling their teams out in the media a lot lately.
Yeah, everyone's doing
that. It's a new thing this year where you have so many players calling out their teams that they play for. So I don't know if this is improving the team or if it's divisive of the team, in all honesty.
No, I think it's always been there, realistically, man. I think it's always been there where superstars criticize their teams publicly. But I agree with you that it seems like it's happening much more frequently, but everyone is in that win now mode. Realistically, the ones that are complaining, they're either at the bottom of the dump, or they know their window is gonna close and they need to complain about this to get something to happen. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, I mean, Lowry is going to be 30. We had a long debate about this in our friends group, which is why I'm laughing. Yeah. Remember this? I thought he was 32. Someone thought he was 30. Then we found out he's turning 31 in 45 days, which got corrected to 39 days, which is probably 38 days now. So the exact time, he's around 31 years old. And so, he's not getting any younger. He knows that his window is what? How much longer would you say he has elite level? I'd say 2 years, 3 years max.
Exactly. The way he plays, because he's a rebounding guard, he loves to drive body contact. That's a part of his game. I give him maximum 2 to 3 years, maybe.
I totally agree with you. And so, from my standpoint, I think I'm so excited about this trade. Like, overall, I think this is exactly what we needed.
100%.
I mean, us as the Raptors, we're 32. We're not terrible. We're 32 and 24, but I think this is gonna really help us to turn things around. We need
this trade.
Yeah.
This trade, literally, all it was basically putting the Cavaliers on notice. Like, we're back, we're here. Don't think you guys are gonna prance right into the finals this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think Serge Ibaka. I think offensively, as much as defensively, his 15 points per game is a welcome to us. He's a high volume, or not high volume, but he's a high percentage 3-point shooter, and I think overall it's just going to be a great fit. Like you said, it's complementary pieces on both sides of the table.
Exactly. So I personally, from an Orlando perspective, I should say, this is a win-win scenario for both Toronto and Orlando.
Interesting. I don't see it as a win for you, but as long as you see it as a win for you,
whatever. You guys are getting it better. Trust an Orlando fan. We've seen many big men leave our team for nothing, so it's a welcome package when you get something before a big man leaves us.
As long as you're happy, Atef, I'm happy. I think Masai just pulled the trade of the year but as long as you're happy, buddy. That's all I care about as a good friend, you know?
Yeah. Shut up. Watch out for Orlando Magic in 2020. We're drafting the next elite best player ever with the Toronto Raptors pick. I pray to God that happens. I pray to God that happens. Somehow we get a Kevin Durant in the number 20s of this year's draft.
In this year's draft from the Clippers or the Raptors pick, eh?
Yes. I'm hoping some kind of a superstar comes out of this.
That's so
let
funny.
us pull a Boston. Let us pull a whoever drafted Isaiah Thomas, please.
Oh, that would be fantastic if you got an Isaiah Thomas.
Oh man.
Oh well. All right. Well, that was our podcast. That's our analysis of the trade. I think we got everything right, Atef?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But remember, this is only one of the big trades. There's still plenty of trade rumors coming out. So prepare for another episode. We'll probably do one right after the deadline and just kind of do a grading of all the big trades that happen. But this is going to be an exciting deadline because a lot of teams are talking right now.
And Atef, when's the deadline again? Remind our listeners.
It is February 23rd.
Yes, sir. So February 23rd, and we'll hope to get you a podcast right after grading each of the teams.
For sure. Till next time, people. Peace.